In this video, we're going to do a Mutants and Masterminds character creation build on a character inspired by Ryu Hayabusa from Ninja Gaiden. The story of Murayama Miyamoto begins in Japan, in the city of Kanazawa. It is here that Murayama lives with his father, Hikaru. Hikaru runs a dojo, training students in the art of the ninja. It is here that Murayama has trained since he was a boy with a friend, Tanabe Toju. Hikaru trains his students in the art of ninja as self-defense or recreational activity. But he trains his son and his friend Tanabe in the true art of the ninja. The Miyamoto family holds a secret known only to them, that they are entrusted with two relics that were gifted to them by their ancestors. You see, the Miyamoto family are descendants of a legendary ninja, Hattori Hanzo. And it was Hanzo that passed down these artifacts that the Miyamoto family now holds. These artifacts are a set of ancient scrolls detailing the most secret arts of Ninpo. Ninpo is the ability to control the chi in one's body to perform supernatural feats. And also, Hanzo passed down the Dragon Sword. The Dragon Sword is said to be the bones of an ancient dragon slain centuries ago. It is a weapon of most terrible power. It is said it has the ability to cut through any material. And it are these artifacts that the Miyamoto family has been tasked with keeping safe and keeping secret. Now, Murayama, being the son of Hikaru, eventually, as time progresses, as he becomes older, Hikaru begins to explain the nature of the scrolls and the nature of the Dragon Sword. And he is held to utmost secrecy regarding these two, even from his friend Tanabe. Throughout the years, as Murayama and Tanabe, they grew older and they trained, they became formidable ninja. Their skills are unmatched by most normal men. But eventually Tanabe discovers the secret that the Miyamoto family keeps. And his one emotion is of jealousy. That he's been with the family for so long, he's almost like family, a brother to Murayama. One night, Tanabe decides to take these artifacts as his own. Tanabe sneaks into the dojo at night in an attempt to collect the scrolls from the family vault. But he is discovered by Hikaru. Words are shared and a fight ensues. Hikaru, though being an extremely skilled ninja, has become older and not as fast as he once was in his younger days. Tanabe, being a spry young man full of fire and passion, Tanabe eventually overtakes Hikaru and slays him on the floor of the dojo. Hikaru, seeing what he has done in his rage, takes the scrolls and leaves. not knowing where the family keeps the dragon sword, but only that it exists. Eventually, Murayama finds his father dead upon the floor of the dojo, knowing that only one person could have been able to kill his father, and that would be Tanabe. So Murayama makes a vow to his mother that he will avenge the death of his father, Hikaru, and will reclaim the ancient scrolls and restore his family's honor. Hikaru had told Murayama of the location of the dragon sword and where he had kept it. He knows that taking it out into the world could be dangerous, because if it ever is to fall into the wrong hands, it could be disastrous. But a weapon such as this will be needed in his quest, so he takes up the sword. Murayama, using his ninja training, tracks Tanabe across the breadth of Japan, finding that Tanabe has sought passage on a ship to America, to the United States. Murayama gives chase, eventually finding himself on the shores of America in California. And his hunt continues for many months. Eventually, Murayama finds himself in Alpha City. Now, Murayama had heard the stories of the emergence of Rash and heroes had coming out of retirement and out of hiding, because the world as a whole had put in laws in place to prevent vigilantism. But since this incident, it has been seen that heroes would be needed, because if one villain arises, there will be more. Murayama knows that Tanabe will probably find allies in Alpha City, because this is the place where he'll be able to study the scrolls and gain their power, and the allies that he makes will make him a formidable foe. So Murayama, too, may find the need for allies, but until that time, he has only one goal: the hunt for Tanabe, the restoration of his family's honor, and the vengeance for his father's death. And that is where the story of our character will begin. Hey gamers, welcome back to Game Master's Dungeon. I'm Brian, your Game Master. I hope you enjoyed that little intro scene, kind of detailing some of the events of his backstory. Hopefully it gives you some inspiration to make a character like that. If so, feel free to fill in all the gaps that I left there. I left it relatively vague for that purpose. So if it's something that you want to use in your game or inspires you to use something similar, you'll be able to fill in the gaps with whatever information best suits your character. But with that, let's go ahead and get on into the build here. So, character's name, Murayama Miyamoto, played by me. His identity, which is secret, is Ryujin, Dragon King. He's male, 27, he's 5'9", 155 pounds. He's got blue eyes, black hair. Right now he's a free agent, so he's just recently come to Alpha City. He hasn't made any quote-unquote friends or allies yet, so he's just kind of doing his thing. He has not set up a base of operations yet. He's power level 10. Ability spread, so we got 46, 42, 24, 31, and 7 for a total of 150. Now this was a character that was really about defining what's going to make the character, like where I should put the majority of his points. So there's a lot in skills. We're going to talk about all that here in a minute, but with such a wide spread, there was a lot that I wanted to do with the character, but I was definitely limited by power level 10. So a lot of you may have the same issue when you're making characters for a game. There's a lot you want to do. But the thing about it is, it leaves a lot of room for growth in those next 10 power levels up to power level 20. So maybe at the end, I'll kind of talk about where I would spend additional points or what I would add as we increase in power. But let's get into the abilities. So 0 strength, so he's average human. He is a ninja, right? So ninjas are going to be, he's going to rely on his agility, his dexterity, His fighting ability, armed and unarmed. His stamina is 1, so he's a little bit above average on stamina. Obviously, the rigorous training that he has to go through is going to lead to a better stamina, better physique. Intellect of 1. Obviously, he needs to be smart, right? He's a little bit above average on that, so he's able to devise plans and things like that. So I didn't want to leave him at base. I decided to bump it up to 1. I gave him awareness of 5, which is really good. Obviously, being a ninja, he's going to want to be aware of his surroundings, aware of people, aware of situations, things like that. We'll just go into defenses since they're right here. So I went with dodge of 10. Obviously, see his dodge versus fortitude, right? So he's not about taking hits and taking these effects. He's about getting out of the way and not being in the area of those effects or not being there at all, right? Obviously, parry is going to be high because he is going to be using the dragon sword, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. His toughness, it's 3 base, 1 from stamina. When we get down to equipment that he's got a ninja suit, which gives him some protection. And then it goes to 8 because he has defensive roll of 5, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. Then I left his will just at his base awareness of 5. Just his raw mental fortitude is going to help to deflect some of these mental effects, hopefully. His offense abilities, we'll just go over them since they're here. So we've got the Dragon Sword. He's got plus 10 to hit. With the Dragon Sword, it's a damage 8. I gave it improved crit 4 points, which allows it to go 16 to 20, threat in a critical range. And then his penetrating 6. I was going to do penetrating 8, but I had to shave a few points. But still, this is to kind of emulate the ability to cut any material. So he's able to cut through impervious toughness and things like that. Then obviously he's got ninja tools, which we'll go into the details later. But he's got shuriken and incendiary shurikens on his belt. Now, shurikens are normally damage 1 with multi-attack, ranged out of the handbook there. But he's got throw mastery, which increases the damage by 2 because I gave him 2 points. So he's really accurate with them. The shuriken are meant for dealing with chaff, you know, the thugs and things like that, right? And multi-attack, obviously he can target multiple targets, or he can throw them in a cluster at a single target and get multiple hits to improve the effect. Incendiary shurikens, I took them basically as a hand grenade, but I reduced the damage. I didn't want them to be as powerful as a grenade, but still a formidable weapon for clearing out groups of chaff, groups of thugs, and low-level enemies. It's got a DC 14 because it is a burst area effect, so it doesn't you just hits an area with it and it just explodes, fills up that area. People get a DC save to ignore some of the effects or all of it if they have the abilities to do so. Then we've got the fire wheels, which is his 1 Ninpo ability that he has. It is a line area of effect, 5 feet wide by 30 feet long, dealing fire damage, and it's a DC 15 because it's damage 5. So with that, we'll go ahead and get down in here to the powers then. So I gave him Ninpo, kind of like how he has from the game. I wasn't able to give him a lot of them because there's a lot of Ninpo arts that he learns throughout the course of the games. I am kind of basing it on just like maybe the first or second games for the NES. So story-wise, the reason why he doesn't have a lot is because he did all of his ninja training and his combat and the knowledges that he has, so his skills and his abilities and his advantages are kind of what he's been focusing on in the early years. He's just recently learned the Ninpo abilities. Maybe he was able to read some of the scrolls. His father, let him read one of the scrolls and study from it for a little while to learn these first couple of abilities here. So we did make it an array. So going forward, what would be if you learn additional Ninpo abilities, they would just become a part of the array, so they'd cost you 1 point, as long as they're not greater than Art of the Fire Wheels. So Art of the Fire Wheels is the base Ninpo ability that he has. So it's a line area ranged damage 5, so which is 3 points per rank. At 5 ranks is 15 points. Then I gave him Art of Divine Life, which is a healing ability limited to himself at rank 10, which only cost him 1 point. So that's why it's 16 points for the Ninpo array, because 15 for the base and then 1 for each additional ability that he's going to gain. Next, we're going to go into his ninja training. So obviously he trained in his youth and in his young adult life as a ninja, trained by his father. Now some of this is a little supernatural, right? Not basic ninja stuff, but obviously we're playing Mutants and Masterminds, so we want to have some cool abilities. Plus in the games, he demonstrates a lot of these abilities. So I gave him speed 2, so he can move at 120 feet per round, and quickness of 1, so he can do like menial tasks faster. So quickness of 1 allows something that would take an hour to take 30 minutes. So nothing super crazy, but he's very dexterous. He's very good with hand-eye coordination. That's kind of what that's meant to represent. Next, he can run on water. So it's a movement water walking ability at level 1, but it's limited to moving. Next, we've got wall climbing. So in the games, you're able to climb walls and jump around on walls and things like that. So I wanted that to be something that he could just kind of always do. So we gave him movement wall crawling level 2. So level 2 allows him to move at his full speed, 120, each round while he climbs on walls. So that's 4 points for a total of 8. So 2, 3, 4, and 8. Next, obviously, he has the dragon sword that he takes up after his father's death. So I made it strength-based, damage 8. Obviously, he has no strength right now, or no additional points in strength. But if he ever is to get buffed in strength or increase his strength, the damage will go up. Obviously, then if anything reduces his strength into the negatives or whatever, it will reduce the damage because he can't swing it as hard. I did give it improved critical and penetrating of 6. This is to kind of emulate the fact that it's rumored to be able to slice through any kind of material. You're thinking maybe, well, Ryan, this is level 10, but what if I'm power level 15? This weapon, is it going to be as strong? Well, no, it won't. But a good story element would be that maybe the sword is not complete, like it is in the game. The basic sword is the basic sword. Eventually, he's able to power up the sword in the game, which makes it stronger. This, you could maybe find a legendary smith, or you find another artifact that Hattori Hanzo maybe had that you can then combine with the dragon sword to then increase the effects on the sword here, or give it new effects. Up to you, right? Put it in your game. What would you do with it, right? Put that down below. If you had the dragon sword in your game, how would you improve it as you gain levels, okay? Now we're going to go down here into advantages, skills. So I gave him a lot of advantages. So he's got assessment. So he's able to assess his enemy's weaknesses and strengths, which I think would be good for a ninja, right? He's not going to just jump into a fight and fight it head on, right? That's not what he does. So he's able to assess, learn the different strengths and weaknesses of his enemies, so he can better formulate a plan. Quick draw, obviously got to be able to draw that sword real fast, or those shuriken that he's got. Uncanny dodge. He's got move by action, so he can move, attack, move. 3 points of equipment, which we're going to talk about down here in his equipment. Next, we have defensive roll of 5, so this is going to emulate him avoiding damage or rolling with the punch instead of just taking it to the face like other heroes might. Obviously, he needs tracking, right? He's been tracking Tanabe basically across the world, all the way to Alpha City. Now he's really going to have to get in there and really track him down. He's going to need this ability here. Evasion of 2, obviously it's super important on these kind of characters, right? To allow them to get out of the way of area effects and things like that. He's fearless, he's a ninja, and he's filled with the need for revenge. Nothing is going to stop him, so making him fearless. Maybe his father's told him of ancient demons or creatures that his ancestors fought. If you decide to do something like this with a character like this, come up with something. Why would he be fearless, right? Hide in plain sight. He's a ninja. Got to be able to hide in plain sight. He uses disguise and deception, things like that, to get in and out of where he needs to go. Improved initiative of 3, so he's normally almost always will act first because he's got a really high initiative. Go back to the first page, initiative 18. So it's 3 ranks of improved initiative to 12, plus agility of 6 for 18. So he's super fast. Mentally, which allows him to always get the jump on the opponents. I talked about having throwing mastery of 2, which improves the throwing damage of his shurikens. And also, it also gives him the ability to throw mundane items to be able to deal damage. cups or bar stool or pool stick or something, right? He's still able to throw that stuff and deal damage with it. Instant up, so if he's ever knocked down, he could just get up really fast. Languages of 1, because he was raised in Japan, so he knows Japanese, and he also knows English. His complications, he's got justice. He seeks revenge for the death of his father by the hands of Tanabe. And then he has a responsibility. He must reclaim the sacred scrolls that his family was entrusted to protect to restore the family's honor. Skills, quite a good spread. There was actually a lot more that I wanted to take, but once again, I had to cut points to get him under 150. This is definitely where you would want to, as you progress through the game and gain more power level, more points, improve these skills or gain new skills. I gave him a lot of ones that are kind of themed around a ninja, right? Acrobatics and athletics, right? He's got combat skills, so he's good with swords. And he's also good at unarmed, right? You learn a lot of unarmed techniques as a ninja. You learn weapons training as ninja. I focused on swords specifically just for the dragon sword, because just like melee weapons is too vague, you'd have to have multiples of, and I didn't have the points for that. Deception, obviously, right? He's a ninja, got to be able to deceive people, to be able to disappear into crowds or to trick people into doing things, that kind of stuff. Insight, obviously, be the ability to read people by body language and things like that. Investigation, he's going to have to find where Tanabe is. He's going to have to track him down. He's going to have to track leads and things like that, so he's going to need investigation. Obviously, perception is going to be really high. He'll be able to perceive his surroundings. 1, so he knows what's going on, and 2, so he's able to see threats maybe before they're able to get the jump on him. I gave him ranged combat with ninja tools, which we'll talk about here in a second over here in the equipment. So it gives him bonuses to hit with those, mainly the shurikens, because the other ones are just like area effects. Sleight of hand and stealth, I believe, are both important for someone trained in ninja. Now, obviously, once again, this sheet is messed up. I'm going to work on finding a new sheet, but for now, this is what I had on hand. But this is not 25, it's 12. For some reason, it adds, I think it's perception, adds to stealth for some reason. However the page was made, they tied the two together. But just know that this is 12, not 25. Okay? Into equipment. Once again, we've talked about the ninja tools. Now, equipment 3 gives us 15 points of equipment that he can take. So what I've done, I've made ninja tools as an array that's removable. So it's like his like a belt that he's got, or pouches that are on his belt that could potentially be removed if someone's able to get a hold of them. So now it's 12 points, but let's go into how we break it down. We start with the main ability, which is the incendiary shuriken. Basically, it's like a grenade on a ninja star on a shuriken. Once again, I reduced the damage a little bit because I didn't want it as strong as a regular grenade. And also because the Art of the Fire Wheel is damage 5. I want the incendiary shuriken to be a little less. But you're probably like, Brian, but they're so close together. Why would I just not use incendiary shurikens all the time? That's a good point. So now remember, right, in kind of the story that I've made, he's recently learned the Ninpo abilities, so they're relatively weak. He hasn't mastered them. So as you improve in levels, you'll be able to put points into increasing those Ninpo abilities to make them stronger, more effective, even new abilities. Incendiary shurikens are going to stay at damage 4, probably indefinitely, unless you, I don't know, find someone to make you better incendiary shurikens. But these are really kind of designed for clearing out chaff. Even later in the game, your power level 15, right? There's still going to be like thugs and, you know, the basic troops that maybe the villains would have, right? This is kind of what you're using those on, and saving your Ninpo abilities for the bigger villains. Next, we've got shurikens in his belt. So ranged multi-attack damage 1. I put it damage 1 because that's what it is. But then in the other offenses, I made it damage 3 because, once again, he's got throw mastery of 2, which increases the damage. So which are really good for, once again, clearing out chaff. Or since they're multi-attack, you can just throw a spread into an enemy, and you could potentially get decent damage off of them, depending upon how bad they fail their rolls. And that only costs us 1 point. So we're at 12 here. Plus 1, 13. Smoke bomb. Obviously, you're ninjas, right? You'll watch the old Ninja Turtles movies back from the, I think it was the 80s, like late 80s, 86, 87, whatever it is, when they just throw down a smoke ball and people just jump around, disappear, or whatever. It's this kind of thing. Like you throw it in there, you disorient the enemies, you get in there, you do your business, or you just disorient them and you just go past, and then they don't even know what's going on. And that's 1 point. So it's 12, 13, 14. But it's only 12 points, because remember, removable at its first level gives you -1 total cost for every 5 points the effect is. So it's 14 points, so it only has basically 2 increments of 5, so he gets -2 cost, which brings it down to 12. So I have the 3 more points, right, from equipment 3. I went into Ninja Suit. So it gives him a little bit of protection. So protection 2. But then I also gave it skill mastery stealth, which allows him to make stealth checks even when he's under pressure, which I thought was pretty cool. I was going to give it protection 3, but I was like, what else can I do with it? Let's give it skill mastery stealth. Yeah, it's a ninja suit, right? You would think a ninja suit would be designed to allow you to more easily and effectively blend and hide. Right, gamers, there it was. That was the build. Pretty simple. It took quite a while to figure out where to spend the points and really where I want to focus on what's defining the character. So one bit of advice I can give while developing a character, really think about what's going to define the character. Right, Superman, I would think he's defined by his powers and abilities. Right, so this section up here and his powers. His strength, his flight, his speed, his ice breath, heat vision, all that other stuff. I'm not saying that he doesn't have advantages, and I'm not saying that he doesn't have skills. I'm just saying that maybe they're like a secondary thought, something that he learned over time, but he's always had these abilities and these powers since he was a child, once he came to Earth, right? So advantages and skills is maybe something that he would have picked up over the course of life, jobs, school, things like that. So this is something that he would have always had. Now, for this character, he was trained as a ninja, so the advantages and the skills and the training gave his abilities. And then the powers, sure, it's 42, but it's something that he required later in life. The Dragon Sword itself is 18 power points. His Ninpo abilities, right now we're at 16. His ninja training is at 8. For a total of 42. So I wanted his skills and his advantages and his abilities to kind of be where I envisioned the character. And then I was able to okay, now I'm going to give him powers, the Ninpo, the ninja training, the Dragon Sword. This is kind of where I made concessions right here, is in the power section. Because obviously now it's something that he can work on later. So obviously maybe as he uses the Art of the Fire Wheels, he learns more. So when you level to power level 11, you get those extra points. Buff up Art of the Fire Wheels to maybe damage 6. Or maybe you'll eventually get it to damage 7. Or maybe in the story you're able to find one of the scrolls that Tanabe had. He left it somewhere thinking it was safe, but you're able to track it down and go on a little, I don't know, quest, so to speak, right, to go get it. Take it back to wherever you're hiding, and you read it, and you able to learn, maybe Art of the Wind Blades or something, which is one of the ones that I had, the Wind Blades. I originally had it envisioned as a cone effect that had a high penetration, right, because it's meant to when he uses it, it's these blades of air that just cut and dismember people at a distance, which would be pretty cool. But I was I had to cut it. Didn't have the points. Ninja training obviously can potentially increase. His quickness can go up. Maybe he gets faster. I personally would probably leave this where it's at myself, and then work on improving my Ninpo and my skills. Maybe gaining new advantages as the game progresses. You're making contacts. You're making allies. Things like that. The Dragon Sword, obviously, is something you'd have to come up with. How is he going to improve the Dragon Sword? Because it doesn't just improve by itself. I, as a GM, would be have to come up with a quest for you or a mission or something you would have to find to improve its power. But then you would give you so many points then that you can spend to improve the effects of the Dragon Sword up to a higher level. So now it kind of stays on par with stuff you're facing. Then Advantages, this is something that would be probably gained throughout the course of the game, right? Like I said, as you make contacts or whatever, you could gain additional advantages there. Obviously, continue to improve your skills as you're gaining power level. Eventually, your acrobatics will go up the stronger you get. Your athletics will become better. Your close combat will be better the more you're fighting opponents. Things like that. So just keep in mind, like, skills and abilities would want to go up, and then the powers would kind of come, for this character, would kind of come through story-based things. But you're free to do with what you want. I hope you enjoyed the character. Like I said, it took me quite a bit to figure out how to get everything worked in and still feel like a character that I would want to bring to the table. And I hope it's a character that you want to bring to the table, or some kind of iteration of. Alright, gamers, so that was that. That was Murayama Miyamoto, a character inspired by Ryu Hayabusa from Ninja Gaiden. I think it would be pretty cool if I was to ever get into a game and I wanted to play a character along this lines. I think this would be a great character to play. It's got some really good story elements that I've kind of come up with. I would love to see what you guys would come up with if you were to play a character like this. If you have opinions like that or want to share them, put them in the comments below so we can all check it out. And obviously I've got a plan of how I would evolve the character as power levels go up. That's another tip I would give you. Get the character to where you want to start play, but then also kind of think long term. Well, anyway, gamers, hope you all stay safe. And until I see you get in the dungeon, I'm Brian, your Game Master. Happy gaming.